Welcome back to CBC News BC. I am Jessica Chung here in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. We've got lots on the go, so let's get to your top stories today. We're going to start in the Middle East and the conflict there. More than 103,000 people have registered with Global Affairs Canada in the Middle East and Gulf region. And while the federal government isn't offering assisted departures, it has secured a limited number of seats on commercial flights out of Lebanon for Canadians who want to escape the fighting. Now, Israel's Ministry of Tourism is operating buses to the border with Egypt, and Global Affairs is communicating these options to the people who are registered. And people across BC's coast are buzzing after what's believed to be a meteor lit up the night sky. Now, reports started coming in just after 9 o'clock last night when people saw bright flashes of light and heard loud booms. People from as far west as Comox to as far east as Merritt reported seeing this, and experts say that all indications point to this being a meteor.
This thing was coming so fast, though, and that's the reason why we heard this boom. It's traveling through the upper levels of our atmosphere at, anywhere from 20 to 70 kilometers per second. So it's traveling so fast that it's actually compressing the air ahead of it, compressing it and heating it up. And that's what's creating that sonic boom.
Now, scientists are referring to this specific meteor as a bolide. Now, bolides are typically chunks of rock or ice from asteroids or comets that burn through the atmosphere before exploding. Now, Johanna Wagstaff there said that there aren't any reports of anyone seeing debris land, and it likely all burned up there. She says experts will be using special instruments to confirm that last night's flash was a meteor. And Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim is once again apologizing for falsely claiming an opposition councillor handed out illegal drugs on Christmas Day. And he's explaining a little bit more about how the claim came to be in the first place. So Sim says someone showed him a photo that supposedly depicted Councillor Sean Orr handing out illegal drugs. It's not clear who showed Sim this image, but he did admit that he didn't fact check it before making the allegation while speaking with Chinese language news media a month ago. Now, Councillor Sean Orr responded to Sim's apology, saying it doesn't undo the harms done to his reputation.
To me, this shows incompetent leadership, that you would not fact-check this photo before going to the media and trying to destroy the reputation of one of your colleagues.
Now, Orr says he wants to see a plan for how the mayor will prevent this in the future, and he is reviewing his legal options as well. And home sales in Metro Vancouver are on a decline, according to a new report from the Greater Vancouver Realtors. Now, the report says that home sales dipped nearly 10% in February compared to the same time last year. Now, the numbers are actually 28% below the 10-year seasonal average. And experts say that some factors could be the low level of confidence in the market and a lack of investors at the moment. They also say that unpredictable global politics and changes in Canada's immigration policies could be contributing to the slowdown in the Metro Vancouver real estate market. And that's it for now. You are watching CBC News BC. We've got lots more coming up. I'm Jessica Chung. Don't go anywhere because BC Today is up next.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. So Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim is in crisis management mode, following his unfounded claim that councillor Sean Orr distributed illegal drugs. Yesterday, Sim apologized to the public and said he was shown an unverified photo. Orr says that wasn't enough and calls the incident a sign of incompetent leadership. We'll talk to a political strategist and CBC's municipal affairs reporter, Justin McElroy. We're asking you, what do you think of how Ken Sim is handling this controversy? I'm Michelle Eliot. Welcome to BC Today. Thank you for joining us on CBC Radio, television, and live stream as well. And you can call us now. What do you think of how Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim is handling the controversy over his false drug claims against City Councillor Sean Orr? What are your thoughts on the apparent toxicity at Vancouver City Council that Sean Orr referred to in his press conference yesterday? Our number is 604-669-3733. That's 604-669-3733 or 1-800-825-5950. You can also just hit pound 690 on your cell phone or email us bctoday@cbc.ca. Mayor Sim continues to face criticism for falsely accusing Cope Councillor Sean Orr of distributing drugs on the Downtown Eastside at Christmas time. So here's the timeline. A week ago, Vancouver Councillor Lenny Joe, a member of the majority ABC Vancouver slate, apologized for claiming in a video to constituents that opposition councillors are drug users and handed out drugs in December. Now, Joe took down the video, and at the time, Mayor Sim thanked Joe for the apology. But the next day, video surfaced from earlier in February of Sim speaking to Chinese language media and claiming that specifically one of those opposition councillors, Cope Sean Orr, distributed illegal drugs last Christmas. Orr flatly denied that claim and said he wasn't even in Vancouver at Christmas time. Well, on Monday, Sim spoke to reporters to say he had called Orr to apologize, but would not elaborate amid further questioning from reporters. Yesterday, he held a press conference, and here's what he had to say.
I didn't verify what I thought I saw, and frankly, I should have never repeated it to begin with. We will be sending out a statement in Mandarin and Cantonese as well.
Okay, so that's Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim at a brief press conference yesterday. That press conference lasted about 5 minutes before Sim's staff ended it and whisked the mayor away. And then Councillor Sean Orr also spoke following that, and he said the mayor's repeated apologies don't go far enough.
To me, this shows incompetent leadership, that you would not fact-check this photo before going to the media and trying to destroy the reputation of one of your colleagues.
Okay, we're taking your calls. What do you think of how Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim has handled the situation? You can give us a call now, 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950. What do you think he should do now? You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca. If you're joining us on TikTok, you can leave your comment there. I have two guests with me for this conversation. Maria Dobrinskaya is a former staffer in Gregor Robertson's mayoral office and a municipal political strategist. She joins us on Zoom. And Justin McElroy is with me here in studio, of course, our CBC Vancouver municipal affairs reporter. Good afternoon to both of you. Thank you very much for joining us. I'll start with you, Justin, because you were at the press conference yesterday, all 5 minutes of it. So what was it like?
It was frankly bizarre, right? I mean, anytime that you're told the day of the mayor's going to hold a press conference on this specific instance, there's anticipation of what he's going to say. When the people line up to ask questions, you generally assume that there's going to be, 20, 30 minutes maybe. Certainly the chance for virtually every journalist in the room to be able to ask a question of what's happening. His statement, while, a minute and a half long, saying that he saw an image, opened up plenty of questions, such as what did the image show, who provided to him, in what setting, all sorts of other things. And after 4 questions, three of which were about this and one which was about a completely different subject. There were a lot of reporters left in line, myself included, when we heard, okay, show's over, with so many of these questions unasked. And so it follows a pattern throughout this entire week where folks might remember it was on it was on Thursday last week where it was revealed that Mayor Sim originally made this comment about Councillor Orr in front of cameras, 2 cameras, at the beginning of February. People asked him for a comment then. There was no response that entire day from reporters all around the city. On Friday, he was at a separate press conference, a separate announcement from the federal government, and people asked him questions then because, of course, there was no response. And he simply repeated about 18 times, I phoned Councillor Orr and gave an apology. So you have this, drip, drip, drip of little bits of information without providing the full context to people, and it means the story keeps going. And so when you have a press conference, you sort of expect, okay, this is going to be the end of it. The mayor's going to say everything people are wondering about this, and then ending it after 5 minutes just continues this pattern of extending out this story that at the end of the day, it's hard to argue makes the mayor look all that great.
And there were so many questions, yes, left unanswered after yesterday's conference and the statement that there was this photo. What have you learned, if anything, more about this photo?
Yeah, well, we asked around a little bit more, and what we've been told is essentially Sim has told his team that what happened was he was at an event with the Chinese community, and it's the sort of community event that lots of politicians do, where maybe it's around a bunch of tables, maybe it's people coming up to you, but you have like 15 to 30 seconds with a bunch of random people throughout the course of a couple hours. And he's told his team that one person there sort of waved a photo at him saying, get a load of this. Can you believe this? Saying it showed Councillor Orr distributing drugs on Christmas Day. And apparently that was all the mayor needed to see just for a few seconds to go and repeat this false allegation in front of cameras a couple weeks later. So it's part of the reason why he hasn't being given more details is because he says he doesn't remember what exactly the photo looked like, whether it was heavily photoshopped or, appeared fully real in the moment, though obviously he must have imagined so to have said this. And it's also the reason why he's not providing a name of where he got this, because this wasn't apparently, forwarded on an email or sent on a social media service. And so, this is what we have been told now. This is what we know. This is what appears to be what Sim is telling people. Whether that's going to satisfy folks who want more forthcomingness out of this remains to be seen.
And remains to be seen. We could see more of that in about 45 minutes from now. There's another press conference unrelated at which the mayor will be. We expect there will be questions about this continuing.
And I'm sure Maria will talk about, the strategy in situations like this, where you want the thing, if you're the mayor of a city, if you're any politician, you want to have a focus on the day of what you want the public to know about. And if people are asking questions that is offside of that, and certainly something about your character or false allegations that you made, that's not necessarily a winning day. But because yesterday's press conference was just 5 minutes long, I would imagine some people at this presser on Granville Street in an hour might have questions that have nothing to do with Granville Street.
Yes, and so speaking of Maria Dobrinskaya joins me, a former staffer in former Vancouver Mayor Gregor Robertson's office and a political strategist. I'll get to what you're expecting to hear, what you want to hear from the mayor, but what do you make of how Ken Sim has managed this controversy so far?
It's really hard to, I come from the quaint olden days of Van Pauli when, we were just dealing with Sam Sullivan. Vancouver politics has always been a little bit rambunctious, but no, I've never seen anything like this. And this is, as Justin said, this is basically Ken Sim is doing everything wrong in terms of how you want to deal with some kind of media explosion like this. We're in a time right now of very volatile politics, obviously, understatement. And we've seen a number of sort of unexpected behavior from Ken Sim over the course of his term. But I was referring to this as a post-shame, we've used the language of post-factual democracy, but it's almost post-shame. Like the text message exchanges I was having with friends and colleagues after this happened is, how can he continue on? Like, is he going to be on the ballot in October? But we're no longer in an environment where we can make that assessment, I think, because the parameters of what's acceptable seem to be stretched. So it seems to me like Ken Sim is trying to kind of little bit of fingers crossed and hope he can wiggle his way out of this, but he keeps digging himself deeper and deeper and deeper. I mean, as Justin said, there's a clear playbook when you're in a situation that is off message. I mean, particularly we're months away from the election. Your candidate, your mayor, your elected official makes a mistake. You take responsibility. You apologize unequivocally. You turn the page. You get back on your message. And you refer to this as a drip, drip, drip. And Ken Sim is essentially doing the opposite of that. Like, not only did he pat his counselor on the back for taking responsibility, for apologizing, he kind of applauded him for taking responsibility 2 days before it came out that he himself had not done so. So, this has become such a remarkable, I mean, we keep saying this, like, what is this? And so I don't know how he's going to turn the page without actually answering some of the questions that Justin laid out that need to be answered. I mean, the options right now is either he lacks critical judgment, he saw this photo and decided that was enough, or he fabricated it. He's extended a bunch of misinformation. And I think how it moves forward will depend on sort of two key things. One is his colleagues. He's part of an electoral organization that doesn't have membership-based party infrastructure. So I'm not sure what the mechanism to remove him would be, but I'm also very curious as an English-speaking person how this is playing out in Chinese language media, right? The audience that he was in, the audience he was speaking to, the audience that he gave misinformation to, how are they receiving his response to it? And so I think his gauging of the political viability of how he moves forward will be taking that into consideration. It's something I'm quite curious to understand more about.
Now, Mayor Sim, did apologize. How far that goes for people, that's going to be up to them to determine. But as you say, there are still many questions that need to be answered. Now, you raised the specter of the municipal election. How much of an impact could this have, months away?
Well, I think tons. I mean, the media will continue to ask questions right now until they get answers that are satisfying enough. But because Ken Sim has made this issue a question of character, of integrity, this is going to be this is going to, follow him through the entire campaign if he continues to be a candidate. I think that it also plays to his opponents in ways that I think are interesting. The visuals of Rebecca Bly as a mayoral candidate, as a former ABC person, standing on stage with another mayoral candidate, Pete Fry, her fellow council colleague, Sean Orr, an opposition councillor, and Lucy Maloney from One City was powerful, right? It was a statement, particularly at a time where there's a lot of conversation around how much how there's opposition to Ken Sim, but how can it coalesce in a way that actually is going to sort of threaten his incumbency. And so there's going to be a lot of attention to what he does and what he says. He hasn't stood up to scrutiny that well, in my opinion. A lot of us who have been critical of Ken Sim see this latest eruption as sort of a hyperbolic representation of all the things that have been wrong with him, his inability to take responsibility, his lack of clarity around what he wants to do in the city. So it's a question of leadership. He's made it a question of leadership. The way that him and his team has handled this has made it a question of leadership, which means it will absolutely be an election issue.
Absolutely an election issue. That's Maria Dobrinskaya. You're listening to former staffer in Gregor Robertson's mayoral office, a municipal political strategist. I'm also joined by CBC's municipal affairs reporter, Justin McElroy. We're asking you, what do you think of how Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim is handling the controversy regarding his unfounded claim about City Councillor Sean Orr? Our numbers again, 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950. Lots of calls coming in. Ian is on the line in Victoria. What do you think of how the mayor is handling this, Ian?
Oh, hi there. Thanks for taking the call. I don't even live there, but this whole thing is his conduct it just strikes me as appalling. I was at that press conference he gave on Monday. He had to teach a master's course in stonewalling. I mean, that was really impressive, quite frankly. But he just doesn't seem to have any true remorse. Whatever he's given in the way of apology or explanation just comes across like he's politically pressured into it and doesn't have any internal sense of, whoops, I really did wrong and caused harm. He ought to step down if he has any honor. I don't know how he can carry on. And as for Councillor Orr, I am no legal professional by any degree, but I really would think it would be wise to investigate defamation action. I don't know if what the mayor did meets the level of criminal defamation, but it was definitely harmful. And I just don't see how anybody can trust him or how he can imagine anybody would.
Ian, thank you very much. And Sean Orr has commented that he is looking at his legal options.
Yeah, certainly. And, he hasn't ruled out a defamation lawsuit. For something like that, it is a pretty high bar. The fact that Sim did apologize and said that he apologized and now has provided more detail and sort of said, I made a mistake in not verifying this, makes it a higher bar as well. But again, it's interesting where people have some of the online chatter for this and people defending Sim or saying, what's the big deal going? It's like, look, Orr has tweeted out in the past lots of times that drugs are cool, for example. And it's like, well, there's an actual legal bar of accusing someone of doing something that is against the law. And when you are the mayor of a city, saying something like that in front of cameras without evidence is actually, there's a reason you don't see it, because it's a lot different than just posting online.
Yeah, the online world is its own entity. Let's take another call here from Ernesto in Vancouver, in fact. Hi, Ernesto.
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon. All I need to say is that the mayor, Ken Sim, can go to the Downtown Eastside and do some outreach work for the people in the Downtown Eastside. And also, I forgive and forgive. Who am I to judge him or anyone else? Anyways, you had a beautiful show. Good afternoon to all of you.
Ernesto, thank you very much for the call. So interesting there in terms of making amends, right? We've heard the Sean Orr say, what about addressing the harms made by distributing misinformation to Chinese language media, the Chinese speaking community? Ernesto, they're saying, what about going to the Downtown Eastside?
Yeah, and Maria might have some thoughts on this in terms of when, a politician realizes they've stepped in it, or their staff have convinced them as such. And then the question of, okay, what do I need to do? What is the bar to make sort of amends, knowing that some people will never be fully satisfied, but you want to do something that puts the story to rest, essentially.
One thing, Maria, that you touched on earlier was the other ABC councillors. Now, CBC has been requesting interviews with them. We have not heard from them. What do you make of their silence on this so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's telling. And in my opinion, it sort of tells us one of two things. Either there's caucus discipline and support for Sim's leadership and everybody's just being quiet because they're waiting for it to blow over, or there's some plotting going on. There's no party structure. It's Ken Sim's party. But one of the things I didn't know, there are divisions in that caucus. We've seen evidence of that. There's been a lot of speculation around not just the toxicity at City Council, but within that caucus itself. One of the only sort of significant votes we've seen since this story erupted was around the police training facility at Woodward's, the proposed police training facility. And we saw, I think, a notable break amongst the ABC councillors on that one, with Montague and Zhao and Klassen voting with Sim, and Dominato, Sky, and Meisner voting against. So, we can read into that, and those of us who follow this stuff and speculate about this stuff will. But I don't think that they can maintain their silence for too long without it being complicity, right? And, I don't, we have such a volatile political environment, and I think people's political memories, at least amongst the electorate, are fairly short. I think there's a lot of time between now and October, and who knows what's going to happen. I'm not going to make predictions at this point. We've seen councillors like Rebecca Bly leave that. We've seen leave the ABC caucus. We've seen Ken Sim's former chief of staff, Karim Alam, running, leave Ken Sim's office and now run against him. There's already been evidence of a lack of Ken Sim's leadership in holding a political caucus together and sticking to a sort of united political agenda. And I think that an incident like this exacerbates those existing tensions. And, ultimately, because of the way in which our at-large system, our electoral system works, it's a mayor and the council slate, like getting name recognition in an election campaign in a citywide election largely depends on the sort of brand of your party and then your attachment to a mayoral candidate, because the mayoral candidates ultimately get more attention. Whether, it will be a political calculation, at some point it'll be a political calculation for those councillors that are running again, whether or not sticking with Ken Sim, assuming he continues to be able to navigate his way and maintain himself as a candidate on the ballot, is a good thing for their political futures or not.
Okay.
And, I think that's an interesting calculation. And again, in an environment where these things used to be a little bit more clear cut, I would say, and now there's a bit of a test for our democracy. Like, can a mayor, a sitting mayor, as Justin said, provide misinformation to a large group of people, not take responsibility for it, get on the ballot and be reelected? What does that say about accountability in our city and government?
And again, he has apologized, right? So I just want to make that clear.
He has apologized. He has apologized, but there are missing pieces for sure.
Yes, I hear you. Well, let's pause here for a commercial break for our TV audience. We'll see you back here in 2 minutes from now. You're with BC Today, and we continue to discuss the fallout from Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim's false claims, falsely accusing Cope councillor Sean Orr of distributing drugs on the Downtown Eastside. He held a press conference yesterday where he publicly apologized, referred to a photo, but did not give more details on that. It was a short press conference. And Justin McElroy is with me, CBC's municipal affairs reporter. You wanted to touch on that some more in terms of the ABC slate here.
I think just in terms of party dynamics, because at the municipal level, parties are always a little bit softer than federal and provincial for all sorts of different reasons. And, we had 3 straight elections in this city. In 2002, Philip Owen was the mayor of Vancouver under the NPA banner. The party said, you're not going to be our candidate next election. In 2005, Larry Campbell was the mayor. He was elected under the Cope banner. He essentially said, I'm done with this party and starting a new party called Vision. It was with other folks joining and with Jim Green being the mayoral candidate. And in 2008, Sam Sullivan was mayor, and the NPA said, we're going to have a primary where Peter Ladner defeated him and became their nominee as well. So all that little history lesson is to say that there's a lot that can happen, that these things shouldn't be taken for granted. Again, at some point, these ABC councillors are going to need to stand behind the mayor at some sort of podium or say, I support him in his re-election bid, which he has said that he intends to do. And at a certain point, people will say, well, are you okay with what he said? It may well be that they say, he made an honest mistake. It can happen to the best of us. He apologized, and we're moving on to keep making Vancouver safe and affordable for all residents. Or they might, at the end of the day, be harboring different feelings, and that's part of the reason why we're not hearing from them right now.
This is BC Today, and I'm joined by Justin McElroy, CBC's municipal affairs reporter, as well Maria Dobrinskaya, who is a staffer in Gregor Robertson's mayoral office, a municipal political strategist. And we're going to continue to take your calls. What do you think of how Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim is handling this controversy around his claims that were unfounded about City Councillor Sean Orr? What do you think is needed? What does he need to do to turn the page? What do you want to see from him? So our numbers again, 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5233. 5950. We'll continue to take your calls with Maria and Justin coming up just after the CBC News update. And here now is Rob Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. Police say a 60-year-old man was taken to hospital after being shot in Lumbee yesterday. His injuries are not considered life-threatening. A suspect is in custody. Police believe it was an isolated incident. Emergency Information BC says there is no tsunami threat to the province after a major earthquake off Alaska this morning. The magnitude 6.5 quake struck about 40 kilometers south of Boulder Island. The tsunami warning system says there is no danger of a tsunami at all from the quake. And many people across the Lower Mainland witnessed a bright flash and felt a sonic boom last night. Experts say it was likely a meteor traveling through Earth's atmosphere. They say the Earth is bombarded with bits of rock and ice every day, but this one happened to travel over populated areas. And now the forecast on the north coast. Rain this afternoon with a high of 7, highs to -19 with a chance of flurries in the Peace. In the central interior, including Prince George, mainly cloudy with a high of 7 degrees. Highs up to 8 with showers this afternoon in sections of the Kootenays. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, showers with a high of 10. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria, and the Fraser Valley, a chance of showers this afternoon with highs around 11. That's your CBC News update from Vancouver.
Rob, thank you very much. Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. Okay, we are continuing our discussion. Still lots to unpack about Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim's retracted drug claims against City Councillor Sean Orr. Again, Sim held a press conference yesterday to issue a formal public apology for his claim that Orr had distributed drugs last Christmas. He told reporters the source of his allegation was an unverified photo. The press conference was short. There will be another unrelated press conference coming up at just after 1 o'clock, and we'll see if what questions the mayor is asked at that time. And we've been taking your calls asking you, what do you think of how Mayor Sim has been handling this controversy? What do you think he needs to do to turn the page? 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950. My guest, political strategist Maria Dobrinskaya, CBC Municipal Affairs reporter Justin McElroy. Let's just go back to some more of our callers now. Mohammed joining us from Victoria. Hi, Mohammed.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, what do you think?
I mean, again, this is why people don't like politics and politicians in many cases. What he did was deplorable and unconscionable. As far as I'm concerned, he should resign or, I mean, unfortunately, there's no process, but he should be fired. This is the second time a councillor or the mayor has done this. And the problem is when the accusation is made, that's what sticks. There's lovely apologies in that, but it's all, in my view, total BS. There is no accountability for people, and in this case, there's absolutely no integrity in what he has done.
Okay. Mohammed, thank you very much for the call. Nathan is up next now in Vancouver. Your thoughts on this, Nathan?
Hi. Yeah, he's playing both sides. Like he's saying he's doing his apologies on Western media, whether it's on for example, the CBC. But then there's another message that's on WeChat. Like, now I just want to make it crystal clear. There's no connection between Ken Sim and the Chinese government. I'm not claiming that. But there's in the Chinese diaspora, there's a lot of misinformation that's propagated about safe supply, drugs, supportive housing, there's a lot of misinformation, and he's tapping into that community. He's tapping into that diaspora. So he's trying to benefit from both sides.
Nathan, thank you very much. Now, he did say the apology would go on to, various media as well. And I think he was asked by CBC's reporter whether it would go on to WeChat as well, right?
Yeah, well, and he sort of dodged that part of it. He said that apology would go out in Chinese languages, but this originated or became a story last week from the posting of Lenny Zhou's personal WeChat. which was shared more than 1,000 times over the course of the week before it became widespread knowledge.
And it was in Mandarin.
And exactly. And so there's this question of, well, you can be saying this to one group of people, but unless you're doing the equivalent of what you posted in other languages, are you really making amends or not?
Let me ask you about that, Maria. Interesting point from Nathan there. And what Sean Orr said, last week in an interview with CBC is that this is, preying on the legitimate fears within the Chinese community. What do you make of that?
I think that one of the things that Ken Sim did in his botching or handling of this whole situation is he did move the conversation away from sort of fear around drug policy and public safety and into a question of his character and integrity, right? Not to his benefit. There will be people who have more sympathy for the accusation based on where they sit around drug policy, around their feelings on specific policies. Back in the olden days, one of the big scandals that we had to deal with during the 2008 election when Gregor Robertson was running for mayor was an unpaid transit fine. He had rode in a two-zone SkyTrain. He rode two-zone SkyTrain with a one-zone ticket and hadn't paid his fine. And so, that became an issue around some of his advocacy for public transit. When he ran, I'm sorry, I'm airing all the resurfacing. He's a mayor of the federal, he's a minister in the federal government now. But one of the other issues, these are all quaint issues now, right? But one of the other issues was he ran a red light on his bike. And this was at the height of some very political discussions in the city around increasing bike lanes and so-called war on cars and a very sort of cultural, car culture, very politicized issue. And so, he took responsibility. He apologized. Sort of went through these steps. And for most people, that was fine. He went on to win a majority government, the couple years later. But for those who were already opposed to bike lanes or those who were already opposed to his advocacy around active transportation, this became evidence of, what he did wrong. And so I think we can see both sides of that playing out in this story. There will be people who don't like Ken Sim, who don't trust him, who can now hold this up as like saying, see, like he said this and he's doing this. And how can we trust this man? Other people will be more forgiving because they already have sympathies around those positions around drug policy. They already are suspicious of Sean Orr. And that's where that is that murky, dangerous territory, I think, particularly in the political environment we're in right now. And I just, to comment from the previous caller around, this is why people don't like politicians. The entire thing breeds distrust, right? At a time where, again, there's so much precarity around our democratic processes. And so people aren't sure, again, those of us who pay attention will have our opinions on one side or the other. But overall, it creates more murky, like, is this right? Is this wrong? Or is crime going up? Did he sell drugs? And again, that accusation will stick in some circumstances, in some communities. And again, in the mess that is the online ecosystem of conversations about that, particularly muddled further by AI and all kinds of fabricated images.
You raise a good point. I definitely want to touch on that with Justin in a moment, that element, right, of what's out there online and the political environment around that. Let me just go to Mike in Vancouver here. What do you think of how the mayor is handling this controversy, Mike?
Well, I listened to the taped interviews from before, his apologies before and lately. I think if he sticks to the one lately, his most current one, that it will all blow over. The elections are way in the future, given the electorate. And I think back to Mayor Robert. You have a person there, Maria, who worked for Mayor Robertson, I believe.
Maria Dobrinskaya, yes.
Well, you can talk about his transit fare thing, but back then, I think in July of 2010, he and council were at a meeting in the West End that they called to talk with the public, and when they walked on a break, the mic was left open, and you could hear Robertson, I heard on the radio, being completely obscene and sneering at the audience that was out there, and council agreeing with him. He came on the air on the CBC and said he misspoke and got reelected. I think Mr. Sim, if he just hangs on right now, will get reelected too. People somehow don't seem to care past a week or two.
Months away still. Yes, Justin, I'll let Maria respond to that. But did you want to say something, Justin?
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where, the difference here potentially is that you look at recent polling, it shows Sim around a 30% approval rating and people saying that the city is on the right direction. I would, assume that the approval ratings for Robertson were a little bit higher at that time as well. But it is also a reminder, to Maria's point of saying like quaintness with things, there are always things that come up for any mayor, no matter how much you like or dislike them, that become public issues that you need to deal with. And oftentimes it becomes the question less about what you originally did and how you ended up trying to make amends or communicate with the public.
Maria, go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, that I recall that I was thinking about all the sort of issues management that
we're all going down memory lane here. Yeah, go ahead.
So, and I remember the transit fine and the red light. I forgot about that hot mic moment, which was also a bad one, And what do you and so it was a particular segment of the electorate that Gregor should have known, Mayor Robertson should have known better, and he apologized. And again, it shows that there will be people are going to fall into different camps, right? And the willingness to sort of move on are going to depend on your feelings around the person to begin with. Now, and also I think whether or not it becomes a matter of character, right? Like, and that's the job of the opposition, frankly. The media will ask questions. They'll try and get as much sort of information and get the politician to sort of admit as much as they can. But the opposition, how they frame it up is also going to matter. So does it become a character issue? Now, with the issues that we dealt with Mayor Robertson, they didn't become character issues except among the people who were already opposed to what he was doing, right? And so I think the numbers are different right now. I mean, Justin cited the 30% approval, and I think it's an interesting. To me, this is a much more significant, I bring those other incidents up mostly to say that they were mild compared to this. I don't actually want to equivocate these incidents because this was a combination, a series of things that all spoke to character. The lying initially, or the lack of admission when he praised his fellow councillor for making an apology, the lack of any explanation, the looking at a picture and being willing to provide no judgment, no critical assessment, and
okay.
So again, I think there's degrees to this, and I think that the way the fact that we're still talking about this a week and a half later also speaks to why I don't to some of it hasn't been cleaned up very well, and maybe that's some of their actions, and maybe that's the issue itself.
I'm just going to jump in, Maria. I apologize, Justin. I know you need to go to a press conference. I just want to get one question to you about that broader, the political environment Maria was talking about. What are we looking at, and what is the role of the online stuff, the misinformation online?
Yeah, and people need to think about the context of where we are with these sorts of things now. And we touched a little bit about the WeChat and the Chinese diaspora and the saying different things to different communities. There's also the fact that we now live in a world where people can make all sorts of photos and videos about anyone and post it anywhere. And there are accounts out there that post things of Sean Orr doing all sorts of heinous things that are what we would call AI slop on the regular, and one of them is followed by the mayor's chief of staff and other people that surround him. So we live in an environment now where lots of people imbue not just text-based allegations that are unfounded, but photos and visuals well. And it's one of those things where these types of specifics in terms of where people find information and whether they verify it or not are going to grow. And it's up to all of us to have a good sense of both media literacy, AI literacy, and understanding that there are these circles of the internet where these things spread for all sorts of different reasons.
Yeah, good point to end on with you. Thank you very much, Justin.
I'm going to run over to that press conference right now.
Off he goes. We'll see. We'll get the update shortly. That's Justin McElroy, CBC's municipal affairs reporter. Let's take one more call here on this issue. And Carl is joining us from the Highlands in Victoria. Hi, Carl.
Hi, Michelle. Nice to be asked.
Welcome. Thanks very much for calling in. Yeah. What do you think of how the mayor has handled this? Now, you have been on council yourself.
I have been a councillor on and off since '93 and a mayor for 2 terms in the Highlands.
Yeah.
Now, I would ask, what is the first thing any citizen, let alone a mayor above all, would do if they suspected illegal behavior from a councillor? You would not broadcast your suspicions, especially to the voters. You would either investigate yourself or ask the police to investigate. That it is totally wrong to go ahead and broadcast just personal accusations. That's just really out of and way off what any mayor or any councillor should do. And I don't have any particular allegiance to any member of council. I don't know anything about any of them. I'm just talking about what council behavior should be.
Yeah. Carl, really appreciate hearing from you, former mayor and councillor as well, joining us from Highlands in Victoria. One last point from Maria here. I just have a minute here, but what do you want to see next? What's needed here?
I think accountability, and that's going to mean different things to different people. I do have concern, Justin mentioned that we need to have literacy around our online activity, and we all do, but it's at a point where for us to do that individually is becoming increasingly difficult, even for those of us who really are literate in navigating media and online spaces. And so I think when the mayor, somebody who should be a trusted public figure, exacerbates that confusion and muddies that water, we're in a very, very dangerous place. And so I think that it's not enough for him to sort of say sorry and take accountability. I think there needs to be an examination of I think the last caller's point is very good. Like, is this how is he governing the city with integrity and with thoughtfulness and with the literacy that he's expecting, that we are expecting of voters? How can we expect somebody to govern our city who is not demonstrating those same things? So I hope that the public, that the media, and that the opposition councillors in particular will continue to ask questions about this, because it has been so clearly revealed as a character issue. I don't think an apology is sufficient. And I personally don't think that Ken Sim, anything less than Ken Sim not being on the ballot in October is going to be satisfactory here in terms of actual accountability.
Maria, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Maria Dobrinskaya, former staffer in Gregor Robertson's Vancouver mayoral office and a municipal political strategist. It is now 12:48. You're with BC Today. Lots of emails are coming in on this. Randy writes in Burnaby, do we really want this individual as the mayor of a major Canadian city? Our city, forget the many apologies and any other distractions that are surely being engineered for a timed release. Actions define the situation, and Ken Sim cannot rewrite or change history. Karen writes, well, the mayor sure is looking incompetent. He's being evasive, which is an insult to everyone, reporters, the public, his colleagues. He can't even manage giving a proper, real apology when it is indicated. What a mess for our city. James writes, Ken Sim should resign from his role as mayor of the city of Vancouver. His actions are not representative of Vancouver or Vancouverites. His apologies appear empty. Vicky writes, Sim has not apologized to the public who were lied to. He says he apologized to Sean Orr, whom he lied about. A genuine apology includes a statement acknowledging the harm done, destroying faith in leadership at City Hall, and offering reparations. Elizabeth writes, Ken Sim is neither stupid nor gullible. I am not alone in believing that he knew exactly what he was doing when he chose to make these comments. Everyone seems to want other people to be held accountable. Well, time to own it. This should not be forgiven in my view. What is the message to kids and people with integrity? Trudy writes, I'd like to bring this to the larger issue that we have. There is no way to report inappropriate behavior by elected officials at the municipal level in BC. While the City of Vancouver has its own integrity commissioner, they work at the pleasure of council and do not have the jurisdiction to levy binding resolutions. Thanks very much for all of your emails. bctoday@cbc.ca. $12:50 now. You're with BC Today. I'm Michelle Eliot. Thanks so much for being with us. And I don't know if you heard it or saw it last night, but yes, a loud bang and a bright flash sure created a buzz among British Columbians. Social media was alight with people hearing and seeing the event shortly after 9 p.m. Experts say the phenomenon was likely a meteor traveling through the Earth's atmosphere. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now by CBC's climate and science specialist, Darius Madavi. Hi, Darius.
Hello.
Did you hear it last night?
I did, but I'm ashamed to say I didn't register what it was at all.
It's just another noise in the neighborhood. Yeah.
It was loud, but that was it.
I did not even hear it. So there you go. I'm more ashamed than you. So what was it exactly?
So a meteor re-entering Earth's atmosphere. As time goes on, we'll get a better idea of what exactly that meteor looked like. But at the moment, scientists, experts have said that it was probably about 10 centimeters in diameter.
Wow.
So not a huge meteor by any means, but enough to produce that really spectacular fireball. They're often called a bolide is the scientific name for when you get that really bright flash from a meteor.
Okay.
And because it was, you can hear the boom there.
There it is.
Because it was traveling so quickly as it re-entered the atmosphere, or entered the atmosphere for the first time, it produced that sonic boom, which is what people heard. So if you saw the flash and you heard the boom, you would know that they happened a couple minutes apart because light travels so much faster than sound.
Yes.
And especially if you're far away, the further you are, the more dramatic that difference is going to be. But for many folks, we're talking a couple minutes between when they saw that flash of light and then heard the boom later.
Yeah, you can see there in some of the footage we're showing, taken from people's door cameras, just a bright flash in the sky.
That's right.
Again, I was out and I did not see this. What was going on? Is that anything people should be concerned about at all?
No, this isn't something that you need to worry about. These kind of entries that are happening over populated areas, pretty uncommon. We do see, I think the estimate is 15 to 20,000 meteors entering the Earth's atmosphere every year. But those are mostly happening over the ocean because most of the Earth is ocean. Most of them are small, so they're going to completely burn up in the atmosphere. This one, if anything, did make it to Earth. It's been scattered throughout the forest, so we'll probably never recover it. But scientists are working to figure out exactly what that track was and where things might have landed. And it re-entered I keep saying re-entered. I've got space junk on my mind. It entered sort of north of Coquitlam and then continued moving north as well. So that's, if you're in that area, it's probably where you saw the flash the brightest.
I see. Okay, so I don't live near Coquitlam. That's my excuse. Interesting. I'll ask you about space junk in a moment. But what more do you think scientists will want to know about this?
So they'll probably want to get a better idea of the size and where it came from. Scientists are doing a very good job of trying to catalog a lot of the NEOs, so near-Earth objects that are potentially going to enter Earth's atmosphere. So any of the big ones that might actually cause a problem, we'll know about in advance, and we would be able to potentially do something about it before it became a problem entering Earth's atmosphere. So a couple years ago, NASA did the DART test, the asteroid redirection test. So they were able to test their ability to actually nudge an asteroid off its path.
Right.
So in the future, if we do have something that they've logged as being potentially dangerous, we might be able to move it away from the Earth before any potential collision would happen. This one was definitely smaller and was not known to scientists as far as I can tell. But that's again largely a function of the size. These smaller things are definitely harder to track.
Okay, all the things that are in space right now, the space junk, as you say, how much of that kind of space debris is out there?
There's a lot. There's a lot of visualizations you can go and see online where it's all these little dots that are all over the globe. Now, those are a good representation of how many things are up there, but you have to keep in mind that the size is way off. So the scale of what we're looking at. So we're not completely surrounded yet, but we are sending more and more objects up into space, especially low Earth orbit satellites. So things like Starlink, a lot of Canadians, especially in remote areas, a lot of people in BC rely on Starlink to get their internet access, and it's brought high-speed internet to a lot of folks who wouldn't have it otherwise. That is a big deal. At the same time, a lot of those satellites that are going up, they're meant to be coming down after 5 years. Starlink satellites only have a lifespan of 5 years. They are they're designed to deorbit, which is to re-enter the atmosphere after 5 years, so Starlink can put newer tech up there. Those re-entries are becoming a concern for scientists, both in terms of the atmosphere, because even if they do completely burn up, what are we putting up there into the atmosphere? We don't really know what the impacts of that are. Some scientists are concerned about the ozone layer, for instance. Maybe it has the same impact as those chlorofluorocarbons, those CFCs that led to that hole in the ozone so long ago, not so long ago. And then also the impact on what happens if it makes it back down to Earth. A couple of years ago, 2024, a piece of a Starlink satellite, a huge chunk of it, crashed down in a field in Saskatchewan, and a farmer recovered it. And Starlink, a little while later, confirmed that it was one of their satellites. So if that happens, if there's a malfunction, if it doesn't completely burn up, what happens then? It could hurt somebody. The amount of junk we have, or the amount of things we have up there in space, changing very quickly, building a lot. Starlink, there's currently about 10,000 of them up there, but now companies like Amazon and other countries like Russia and China, the EU as well, trying to build these mega constellations of their own. So we could have upwards of 300,000 satellites in orbit by 2040, which is a lot of material to have up there and a lot of things re-entering the atmosphere.
Yeah, that visualization map is going to get busier. Darius, thank you so much for explaining this to us.
Thank you.
That's Darius Madavi, CBC's climate and science specialist. It's now 12:56 here on BC Today. Now, more now on the news this week that BC is ending the seasonal time change. So yes, Premier David Eby announced that this weekend, the spring forward clock change will be the last and that BC will move to permanent daylight time. Now, today, we've learned that the Premier has also written now to the governors of Washington, Oregon, and California, advocating that they also make the same change. We got a lot of emails on this. Isaac writes from Black Creek, I'm thrilled with the announced move to permanent daylight time. What is of most value in life is our personal free time, and having more of that during the daylight hours is a win. Thank you very much for that. Karen writes as well, I've spent the last 10 weeks undertaking a sleep project to overcome chronic insomnia, and finally calibrating thanks to various tools, including a walk in the morning. The morning part is critical. I can shorten my sleep, but to maintain my sleep health, I need to stay on track with my morning routine. I hope my time spent recalibrating my body won't be thrown out. Thank you so much for your emails on that too. We'll continue to follow that for you. Our email address, bctoday@cbc.ca.